Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2017 Honda Fit, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit. There's going to be 5 main components needed to flat tow your Honda Fit. You're going to have the base plate, which a base plate is going to provide us with a solid connection point. That way we can hook our tow bar up to it. That tow bar is going to be the second thing that we're going to need. So the tow bar is going to be the link in between the front of our Honda and the back of our motorhome. The third thing will be safety cables. And these are going to be used as a backup device in the event of a catastrophic disconnect. These are going to keep your Honda attached to the back of your motorhome. Fourth thing is going to be tow bar wiring. So the wiring is going to transfer all of the necessary lighting functions from the back of your motorhome to the back of your Honda. That way you're not only safe, but legal as well. And last but not least is the braking system. So the braking system is going to apply the brakes in your Honda whenever you hit the brakes in your motorhome. So that way it's going to bring you to a more safe and predictable stop, and you're really going to help reduce any wear and tear on the motorhome, because with the braking system, your motorhome isn't solely responsible to do all the stopping. So one thing I really like about this kit is how easy it's going to be to use once you have it installed. Whenever you want to flat tow your Honda, all you're going to have to do is plug in the wiring up front, which goes from the Honda to the back of the motorhome. Unlike some of the other styles, like magnetic lighting for example, that's going to require you to set it up every single time. So not only are you going to have to do that, you're going to have to worry about sticking magnetic lights onto the body of your car. You're going to have wires that drape over down along the front, and it can just be a real hassle. And let's be honest, the last thing we want to do whenever we're out vacationing and enjoying ourselves is having to deal with setting that up every single time. It doesn't get much easier than this. We're just going to take our coiled cord, plug it into the socket here at the front, take the other end of our cord and plug it into the 7-way here at the back of our motorhome. And the coiled cord is a nice touch too. That way whenever you're going straight, it's going to keep everything up off the ground. You don't have to worry about it dragging. But whenever you make those wide turns, it's going to stretch out and give you that little bit of extra length that you need. Now I do want to point out, you would want to use this coiled cord with tow bars that don't have channels running on the side of them. Some other types of tow bars have those channels, and those are designed to run your wiring and your safety cables through. So if your tow bar does have channels, I'd recommend picking up the kit, which is exactly the same as what we're using today, except with one exception. The cord is going to be straight, that way you can utilize those channels and run it through. And since this kit utilizes diodes that tap into your Honda's factory wiring, those diodes are going to protect the factory wiring if any shorts or electrical issues were to occur on the motorhome side. That way you don't have to worry about messing up your Honda. The diodes are going to give us our left turn signal, our right turn signal, our brake lights, as well as our running lights. So overall, a really reliable way to give us our necessary lighting functions without having to spend a whole bunch of time setting it up. Now as far as the installation goes, it is a little bit involved and will take a little bit of time, but as long as you stay patient, you should have no problem getting it done at home. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and wire it up together now. So to begin our install, we're going to be here at the front of our Honda, and we're going to take one end of our wiring and we're going to connect it to our plug. So in order to do that, we'll first take the little rubber boot, just slide that into the wire, kind of out of the way for now. Then we're going to separate each one of these wires. So kind of cut in between them carefully. Kind of get it started. What we're going to do is kind of peel them back maybe 4 or 5 inches. That'll give us some room to work. Now once we have them peeled back, we're going to strip off the insulation on each end. And that'll expose the bare wire underneath. Now that we have all the ends removed, I like to kind of twist the wires nice and tight, and that'll help give us a good connection. On the back of the plug, there's going to be set screws, and I already went ahead and undid a few of them. Before you put the wiring in, you're just going to back the 4 out that we're using. You don't want to take them all the way out because they're tricky to get back in, just enough to get our wiring inside of there. But each terminal is going to be labeled, and that'll determine what wire we put in each terminal. So right here will be labeled RT, that'll be for right turn. So we'll put a green wire in that. LT for left turn, our yellow wire will go there. GD for ground, our white wire will go there. And up here we'll have TM, that'll be for our tail lights, so our brown wire will go there. So what we're going to do is grab the corresponding wire, push it down, kind of hold it in place, and then we'll tighten down that set screw. Once we have it tight, I'll just use that same process to get the rest of our wires all hooked up. Once we have all the wires hooked up, that's what it's going to look like. And what I like to do is take some dielectric grease, which you can find here at etrailer, and really just coat those terminals good. And that'll just help prevent any potential corrosion that could happen. You can slide our rubber boot over it, and we can just go ahead and secure it to our base plate. So now we can run the bundle of wire towards the back of our Honda. So the way I started, coming right out of the back of the plug we just hooked up, just kind of followed it along our base plate, and it comes above our base plate, up through this opening, which will set our wiring in the engine compartment. Now what I like to do in a spot that's somewhat open like we have here is just leave a little bit of extra wire to work with, because some braking systems require us to actually tap into this wiring. So if that's your case, like it is with ours, you want to leave yourself a little extra up here. With that being said, I just dropped it down along the firewall, and when you do this, you just want to make sure to avoid any hot or moving parts. I'm just loosely running this right now, and once we have it back, we can always come back and use some zip ties to keep it nice and secure. So now underneath of our car, this is where the wiring drops down along the firewall and starts to go underneath. Now once we get to about this point here, what we're going to do is grab the other end of our wiring, and we're going to separate the white wire. So I cut it a little bit. We're just going to pull it off from the other wires, and we're going to remove it all the way up to about this area here. So here's where I had them separated. Now the reason we're doing this is because we're going to ground this end of our white wire, and that'll give us a lot of extra length of extra wiring, more or less, to be able to run from the driver's side to the passenger side eventually. That way we don't have to source another piece of wire. We'll just use what we already have. So I'll kind of eyeball where I want to ground this, and I think I might go right here in this area. It's a nice solid piece of steel where the frame is. So what I'll do is cut it to length and strip back the insulation. Give that wire a twist. We're going to grab the included ring terminal, slide that over, and crimp it down onto the wire. Hold that where I want it. We're going to take the included self-tapping screw, and that's what we're going to use to secure it. With that secured, now we can continue to run our wiring to the back of our car. It goes underneath this panel. You can pull the panel down, take a few fasteners out. It goes back and towards the edge of our vehicle, more or less pretty much straight back. Our wire will kind of be running in this area. So it'll come out from our panel. We're going to go up. A small opening in this support. Just run it through. And then along this edge, what I did was take a couple of clamps and drill it into the frame. And that'll keep the wiring up and out of the way. That way we don't have to worry about it coming in contact with our spring. Once we get to about this point, we're going to stop our routing, and what we're going to do is take the end of our wiring, going to separate the green wire from the other two. We're just going to peel that all the way back up to where we stopped routing back here. The reason we're doing this is because this green wire eventually will run over to the passenger side, and the yellow and brown one will just go up to our driver's side. Now what we need to do is remove our tail lights. So if you open up your hatch, you'll see two screws here. So I'm just going to use a Phillips bit and remove those fasteners. We should be able to grab our tail light and just kind of work it back and forth and pull back on it. And that'll free it. Now what we can do is disconnect our wiring. So each one of these connectors is going to have a tab in the center. Push down on it and pull back. Wiring will be connecting our tail light there. You just pull that clip off. Same thing with the rest of the connectors. The other tail light set up the same way, and we're just going to repeat this process over there. So I went ahead and tested our wiring. I checked this plug here. It has 3 wires going into it. And the green wire, that's going to be for our stop and turn signals. So we'll be plugging in the yellow wire from our diode wiring. And for our tail lights, this wire here, it's a gray in color. That's going to be for our taillights. And so our brown wire will go into that. Now what I'm going to do is get rid of this sheathing here. Maybe we have some room to work. Be careful not to accidentally cut the wires when you're taking this off. And get that out of the way. And what we're going to do is about here in the center is cut our gray wire and green wire in half. Get those trimmed. And then we'll strip back all 4 ends to expose the insulation underneath. That way we can connect some spade terminals to it. All 4 ends are going to get the blue terminals that's included with the kit. Slide that on the bare end and crimp it down. I'm going to do the same thing for my 3 remaining wires. So now at this point we can pull our diode wiring up into the taillight pocket. So what I've done is just used a fish wire, got a piece of nylon air tubing. You could also use a coat hanger or something like that. And dropped it down through until it came out the bottom. And on the bottom of the pull wire, I taped our yellow and brown wire. And then I took that extra piece of white wire that we had cut off and saved and taped that to it as well. Get them all connected. Then we can work that wiring. All the way up into the taillight pocket until we take out all the slack. So I went ahead and stripped back the insulation on our wiring. So what we're going to do is put on some spade terminals. The yellow wire is going to get a blue connector. Slide that on. Crimp it down. The white and brown wire, what we're going to do with these is actually twist them together. Make sure you get them nice and tight, ensure a good connection. We're going to take the yellow terminal, slide it over, and crimp those down. From here we can grab our diodes, and what we're going to do is grab the ends closest to our plug, factory plug here. We'll take the diode that has a single terminal that says out, put that on it. The other matching end of the wire, the factory wire, will go to the other side of the diode. And with our gray wire, that's going to be our taillight signal. So what we're going to do is connect the brown and white wire to that last remaining terminal. Pretty much the same thing for our green wire. Closest to the plug, outside will go to it. Other matching side of the factory wire. And this is going to control our stop and turn. So our yellow wire will go to that. We can go ahead and secure our diodes by peeling off that backing paper on the bottom of them. Just stick them together. And then we can plug everything back in and reinstall our tail light. Tuck everything down. Now back underneath our car, we can run our white wire and our green wire over to the passenger side taillight pocket. So what I did was just run them along through here, kind of pulled down our fascia, ran the wiring behind it, up along through here. Then I went up and over our bumper beam support here. That way we can stay away from our muffler. And that brought the wiring about to here, and what I did was just used a pull wire like we did the other side, taped our wiring to it, and pulled it up into the taillight pocket. So here's our wires running up into the taillight pocket, and I went ahead and hooked up our diodes. It's more or less the same exact as the other side. We're going to have the same color factory wires. The gray one, go color for color on the diode. That'll control our taillights, so we'll plug our white wire into that diode. Factory green wire, we'll go color for color on each side of the diode. That'll be our stop and turn. So we'll take our new green wire and connect it into that diode. And so that's what it'll look like once we have them all connected. Once we have them all connected, we can go ahead and secure them, just like we did the other side. And then plug our tail light back in and get it reinstalled. So now we can go ahead and plug into a tester box to make sure everything is working properly. If you don't have a tester box, you could always just plug into your motorhome and check it that way. So we'll go ahead and turn on our tail lights. Our left turn, our right turn, and our brake lights. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the Roadmaster Diode wiring kit on our 2017 Honda Fit.